Hi, my name is Catherine Beamer, and I'll be talking about the reasons why fast fashion should be done away with in our society today. Fast fashion is inexpensive clothing produced rapidly by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends. This means that companies are taking things that are popular and trendy in society today and making it into cheap clothing rapidly in order to please the consumers. These articles of clothing are not made to last, however, and therefore have to be thrown away just after a few months of wears. Fast fashion is great for people who don't want to spend a fortune on clothing and don't have a fortune to spend. However, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's good. The amount of pollution that is deposited into the atmosphere and earth is way too high, therefore causing damage to the place that we live. Fast fashion causes more problems than it should, and therefore, for that reason, fast fashion should be done away with. Fashion, a 2.5 trillion sector, is the second most polluting industry on Earth, right behind oil. Fast fashion's negative impact includes the use of cheap, toxic dyes, with the fashion industry the second largest polluter of clean water globally, after agriculture. The amount of pollution that is emitted into the environment is not acceptable and therefore should be fixed. In order to make garments cheap, In order to make garments, it takes lots of water and power. Therefore, all the resources are used to make a cheap garment that will eventually end up with the trash just a few months after being worn. Textile manufacturing is an industry that requires a lot of fuel and water. One estimate states that the production requires 145 million tons of coal and between 1.5 and 2 trillion gallons of water. On average, we as Americans throw away an estimated 68 pounds of clothing every year, according to Ryan Moore, the author of 4 Reasons to Quit Fast Fashion. We are throwing away too much clothing, in turn causing an enormous amount of waste due to that is being developed over the years. The speed at which garments are produced also means that more and more clothing is being disposed by consumers, creating a huge amount of textile waste. In Canada, the average person throws out 81 pounds of textile annually, while Americans send 9.5 tons of clothing to the landfill every year. The article 4 Reasons to Quit Fast Fashion also talks about the fact that fast fashion exploits many of their workers in order to get the cheapest result. In turn, having cheap workers means that they can produce their clothing as cheap as possible, jack up the price a little bit, and make as much money as they want to. Most of the workers that they, Most of the places that they are sending their work are places like Bangladesh and India, due to the amount that those people can be paid. They don't use China anymore because China can't have as cheap of workers as they want. Things called sweatshops are where these individuals are working and in turn being overworked and underpaid. Sweatshops are conditions that are too hot or too cold and don't have adequate bathrooms or places for them to work in. The working conditions are not up to anyone's standards and therefore are not safe. If you are buying these articles of cheap clothing, otherwise known as fast fashion, not only are you supporting the killing of our environment, but you are also supporting the exploitation of humans. These people are being worked to the bone while receiving minimum wage and most of the time far less than that. In conclusion, it is evident that fast fashion is something that is not okay and not healthy for our world to continue to partake in. There are ways we can help with this issue. As the consumer, we have the ability to control the market. We buy the stuff, therefore, if we stop buying it, the market has to change. One way that we can start fixing this is that we need to start thrifting our clothing instead of always buying new items every time we need something. This would downsize the amount of waste by a large percentage. Thrifting is when you go to a store like Goodwill or Salvation Army and purchase clothing that has already been worn and donated by someone else. Another way to help with this issue is to simply buy less. In America, we always want more and we buy whatever we want. A simple way to cut back on the issue is to not buy as much, reuse what you have. The final way that we can help with the issue of fast fashion is to simply donate your old clothing instead of throwing it away. If you throw it away, it goes into a dump, and therefore 95% of that will never be used and cannot be salvaged. Donating clothing helps the idea of thrifting and gives people who struggle with finding clothing at an affordable price the ability to go shopping. Fast fashion is something that needs to take a step back in order to give the world the opportunity to recover from the damage it's done. The amount of pollution in the world from fast fashion is astronomical and should be taken care of. It should never be the second pollutant under oil. Oil has oil spills. Oil we use every day. Fast fashion is something that can easily be avoided in order to make our world a better place. Thank you for your time.